started and everybody can catch up. So here we go. Today is July 29th. It's a Wednesday, and it's my third in a row, at least month-wise, live weekly shop update. So we're here in the shop. It's hopefully a lot better than the last few times because now I am mic'd, and I got all those problems solved with this little Replay XD camera here. And we got it on the most narrow view possible as far as it's 3 different modes here. And even in the narrow view, you're getting an enormous view of the shop, and maybe the shop feels a little bit larger than it actually is when I'm in it inside, working inside of it, because I can see what's on the monitor here. But here you go. Here is the Gamble House living room rocking chair, and it's where I am so far in the project. So I do have some footage I'm going to be playing for you guys today, and we'll get to that in a second. But pretty much so far this week, what's been going on is I spent some time here on the chair. Most of that time has been spent on the arms, which the video I'll be playing for you guys in a couple of minutes. And I got the arms fitted, shaped, as far as the carvings are concerned, as well as some shaping in the front here, and then all the curves that are rounding over the edges as you get towards the back of the chair. Now, I also spent a whole bunch of other time this week, and that was editing, getting stuff ready for you guys who are either have a yearly subscription or purchase the class, either way. So I now have chapters 2, which is the first build chapter, through 17 up and live on the website for yearly subscribers. And as soon as I get the plans up on the site, which I'm really hoping is going to be either this coming weekend or the beginning of next week, and then I'll probably put the class up. As far as people have asked me a timeline on when I think I'm going to get the project finished, I really just don't know. I'm working hard, trying to balance all these different aspects all at the same time. Finishing the piece, editing the piece, getting the plans finished. But just to let you know, I've been jamming on that as much as possible. So that's pretty much what I've been doing in the shop, which was and I also glued everything up. I got some pictures of that we'll go over after the video gets shown. So why don't we jump into the live video? Not live, but the edited video. This comes from the chapter in the project dealing directly with the arms and how I cut the recessed carvings in the sides of the arms. It's time to make the carvings in our arms. So I've got a lot of tools over here. I've got some sandpaper. I've got bottom spoke shave. It's chisel sizes. Very important. 1/4-inch gouge. You definitely need this. A 1/4-inch gouge. My arm, of course, a piece of leather and a clamp that's going to go onto the leather to help hold this guy down. The first thing I want to do is to clamp the arm down. So with the arm clamp down, what we want to do is take our 1/4-inch gouge, and we're going to start removing material to change this round section right here. We want to we want to keep where it's at as far as the bottom, but we want to change it so it starts to come vertical instead. So I'm going to take my gouge, register it against the bottom so that this piece right here is in line and parallel with this bottom of the arm. And once it is, I'm going to push down a little bit and establish this new curve, just like that. So it's going to be a little slow, so I'm going to come down a little bit. Okay, chop a little bit more than a little bit. Now, what I'm doing is I'm sighting down the curve of the arm to make sure it's falling inside the curve of my chisel here, my gouge that is. And now what I want to do is take a chisel and just slowly start removing waste or material until I make this edge here flat and just coming up to that corner right there. So I'm using the chisel to pare back. See, there we go. Perfect. That's exactly what we're going for right there. Just take it easy, nice and slow. There's nothing, no need to rush this. Last thing you want to make is a mistake right here. Alright, so far so good. Let's remove some more. We can only go about halfway till we have to turn this over. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Going to line up just the same way as before. And push down. Perfect. Now what I want to try to do is to merge these two and blend them. Okay, I'm going to come in from the other side. Okay, I have some 150 grit paper here. And I'm going to start sanding this round. Make sure to stay away from this area right here where our arm meets our leg. So we're just trying to create a gentle rollover here. I know I'm creating cross-grain scratches right here, but I'm not too worried about it right now. I could feel I was a little high, so I'm just going to pare back. Alright, now it's time to start laying out our lines. So the outside here and the inside both take their cues from this corner we just made right here. So no matter what you do, we're always referencing from this side. So the first thing we're going to do is take our square and line it up to where we go vertical, right on that curve. So right now, since we're going vertical right there, I'm going to first draw a line. Okay, so now I have that line drawn up. And then I'm going to come over and make a mark 1 inch and 1/8 in. So there's my 1 inch and 1/8. Going to bring that down. Now set my square to 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to connect these two lines right there. So that's 1 inch and 1/8 up. It's 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. And then from this bottom here to this line, we've got to come up 5/16 of an inch. And then right where 5/16 is, I happen to have my line long enough, I made just a little indent there. So now what we want to do is take our 1/4 inch round guy and line up the heads of it, so the edges, so they're both running vertical on these two lines. And once you think you've gotten that, push down. And that starts our corner right here. And we'll do the same thing over here. So that's our next corner. Now what I want to do is take my chisel. I'm going to bring it up to this line and connect my 2 points and make an indent right there. And then I want to do the same thing down here, right to my line, and then on the top as well. So the first thing we're going to do is mark out where we want to remove material from. So I'm going to set my square to 1/4 of an inch and draw a line from the front all the way down to the back, as well as over here in the front as well. And then we're going to take our square and draw a line up halfway between this beginning and the ending of this curve, meeting our line up here on top. So now what we're going to do is take my spoke shape and start creating a taper here, right in this section, up until this point right here, to remove material so we can get to our lines we made. So just stay inside as much as you can, this area that we've marked out. Realize you're not going to be able to come all the way up. And you may start going back a little bit farther, and that's okay. Okay, that's about as far as I can go to start. So now I'm going to grab a big chisel and just start trying to slowly come back to my lines. You see how a piece came right up? It's because I had a line defined right there. Okay, I'm switching to a smaller chisel so I can get in a little bit tighter. Okay, I'm going to come in from the other side now and start to remove material. Nice and slow. There we go, it pops right out. See, I'm kind of creating a curve already right here. Now as we do this, it'll be deeper in this curve and it'll become less towards the top here. By removing material here, now I can come in and try to feather down right here, where I couldn't really get my chisel into this area before. Okay, I'm just going to make this a little bit deeper. 1/4 inch gouge, make that a little bit deeper too. A little deeper here, just slightly deeper here, with more pressure towards the top than the bottom. Now I come back in and remove some more material. See, I'm taking slicing cuts with my chisel at an angle. Okay, so that means these guys are right there and not severing. That means that I need to come and sever them from the other side. There they go. Now they'll sever. See how I'm stopping right where that line is, where we came up 5/16 of an inch? So back here we want to be actually a full 1/8 of an inch deep. And right now I'm not quite there. But towards the front we want to be about 1/16 of an inch. So to get a little bit deeper, I'm going to take my spoke shave and just come back and remove a little more material. Now the other thing I want to do before I forget is to come in here and make a little bit more of an indent. Just going to rock the chisel. Okay, I'm at 1/8 of an inch down below here. I'm at 1/16 of an inch all the way around. I just want to take this top little section right here just a little bit deeper, just a touch. Okay, that's it. I think we're good. That looks really good to me. So now I'm going to take some 150 grit paper and start to sand. You see how quickly that just smooths out right there? I mean, that's real fast to a nice smooth surface again. Okay, now I'm going to hit it with some 220. I'm staying away from where I marked farther down where we got to remove material for the ebony plugs. It's time to make the relief carvings in our arms. Alright, awesome. So, as you can see, I've moved the camera and we're now right in front of the rocking chair. So what I want to do is actually pick the camera up, bring it over here, and get a little bit closer on what the final parts, or what at least this part of the arm looks like. But before we do that, let me talk about a couple of things. So the front legs have a taper that you cut earlier in the project, and it's the first start of your taper here. It's actually a second taper. The first taper is cut off the another 1/8 of an inch off the top here so that you can get really nice edges all the way on the front part here. Because what you're going to, when you're rocking in this chair, your hand's going to come over and it wants to have a nice, comfortable place to be. So this carving video you just watched is 11 minutes of me doing these recessed carvings here. Is really just the beginning of shaping this arm after we've got the original shape from earlier, which I talked about a couple of updates ago, where I did all the pattern template routing to create the arms. So then after that, this week, over at the sanding station, with that and a combination of my little compact router with 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch roundover bits, created the rest of the roundovers here, sanded this, round over here in the front, and of course I couldn't just leave it at just machine stuff, so I had to come out and get a rasp and have the rasp help me create the rest of the shapes that I wanted as far as the curves and how it would feel up here. And then there was a ton of ebony plugs cut this week too, and there's actually 4 mortises for ebony plugs on each arm. There's 2 for the panels and 2 on the top of the arm. So let me get the camera and show you all that. Alright, so, check it out. So here is the arm and the recessed carving that I did. And as you can see here up on top, there are the ebony the mortises for the ebony plugs, which will come in later. And then as you can see here, hopefully, let's check this out. From underneath, the arm tapers, and actually on all 4 sides, so that you can create this more round over here on the bottom and all these sides to create a really nice place for the rest of your hand while you're sitting and rocking in your chair. And the carvings aren't just on the aren't just on the outside; they're on the inside of the arms as well. So on the outside of the arm, there's more space, which from the front part of the carving to the front of the arm than there is in the inside. But all the measurements are taken from where we cut, where you would, if you were building this project, take that gouge and create this new round curve here after the template routing. So then there's also, take a minute, put this down, check it out. Here, as you saw a couple updates ago, I got the panels fitted, but there's also ebony plugs for both the rail and the panel. Now, when I did all the rounding over for the arms here up on the top as well as on the bottom, I had to stop. I couldn't go all the way back because then I would have create space for my joint back here, and that's the last thing I want to do. So I had to start just before the joint, and then once this section of the chair gets glued up, the back has been glued up and the front has been glued up already. But once I glue this section of the chair up this week, after that I can come in and finish rounding these guys over back into the leg. So you gotta just make sure when you do this part of the chair, when you're building this yourselves, that you start a little bit forward. And of course I talk about that in the video as well. Let's get back a little bit. So I saw some stuff showing up on the chat room, if I can get my leg uncaught from the cables. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, very hard to hear. Can't really hear you. Voice is still bad. Mic is low. Hey Joe, how you doing? Hey Paul. So let's get the camera up. And can you guys hear me better now? Let me know. I am mic'd this time, so maybe it's the output from the Replay XD, but I am mic'd. So let's get going. I'll talk a little bit louder. Hopefully that'll solve the problems there. 16-foot wide walnut slabs into the kiln. Yes, Paul, I see all your pictures on Instagram, and I am, of course, jealous. Matt and I have to get you back on the show, by the way. We got to get a date with you confirmed so we can shoot another episode. So I did glue up, as I said, the front part of the chair and the back part of the chair this week as well. And I'm hoping to glue the sides together this week. I just need to finish sanding the arms. And I'm not quite where I want to be yet. I have some scratches still, so I got to come in with some back down, probably some maybe 150 up to 220 and 320, especially here on the front where we have all this end grain. But I'm really liking where the chair is height-wise as well. When I first started the project, the height of the chair was not where I wanted to be, and part of that was because there wasn't enough weight yet in the back of the chair. So now that the chair has been glued up and there's not all these other clamps floating all over the place, weighing the chair is getting right back to where I think it should be. So I'm just a hair over 16.5 inches right now, and I still need to add some pieces to the rocker. So let me talk to you guys about what I'm going to do this week, and not this week, but after I glue the chair up, when I focus on the rockers. So let me show you some pictures of that. As you can see in this picture, the rocker is right on the bottom, and it has, number one, an indent carving in it, and that indented carving happens in a piece that's higher than the rocker itself. So it was shaped either this way, originally cut. Now for me, and for this project, the way we're going to approach this is by gluing on an adder piece, for better lack of a term, that came from the same strips that were cut on the table saw, and getting that onto both the front leg, and you can see really how that carving is into the adder strip, that cloud lift pattern, as well as the roundovers here in the front. So there's going to be a lot of work left on the rocker as well as carving. And also another adder piece added to the rear legs as well that is longer in the front and the back. In the front possibly, I think I'm just going to probably equal it out. And you can see everything's rounded over there. So there's that adder piece there in the back. And then I add another piece to the very end of the rocker to make it thicker in the very back, and do another recess carving that will match the recess carving that's in the arms I just showed you guys in the video. So when I get back onto the rocking chair, or back to actually working on the rocker itself, sorry Jeff, I'm speaking up. I did a test, and I'm mic'd on my wireless mic, so I apologize. But so when I get back onto the rocker itself, I'll have to do all that work on the rocker. I have to do those adding pieces and doing the carving after I get it sized to fit onto the width of the legs itself. So that's a whole bunch of fun coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then after that, all I hopefully have left is installing my ebony plugs, adding the cleats for the chair, cutting the seat itself, and doing the upholstery work on that, and getting some finish on this thing. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to sitting in the chair at that point. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to sit in the chair. So at this point, I want to kind of open it up to some Q&A. And if you guys have any questions about the rocker or any other projects or any other woodworking questions at all, feel free to ask them. while you guys are coming up with some questions for the Q&A, Paul had a question right off the bat, which was, how many board feet are in the chair, and what's the plans for the seat? Okay, so board feet wise, Paul, I'm not quite sure I have all that stuff added up, but it's less than, I think 35 board feet in total. Basically, I took two 13-inch wide, 8/4, 8 feet long, plus one piece of 4/4, I think 8 inches wide, 8 feet long board, and all that is in the chair right now. And there's some leftover up on the lumber rack right now, and so that's probably total. I mean, there's not a ton of board feet there. What's the plan for the seat? The plan for the seat is to upholster it, very similar to the way I upholstered the living room armchair seat. So we'll do a half-inch Baltic birch plywood with grooves cut into it, which is a technique that Michael Fortune uses, and that allows the plywood to flex. And then a super high density foam on the very bottom, a very thin layer of that, and then a high density foam, a low density foam, a medium density foam, and then padding around it, and then leather all the way around. I'm going to use black leather to match the other chairs at my house that are green, which I've all done in black leather as well. Matt S. asked, he's talking about the Scotch cabinet project, and his question is, I'll be starting a cabinet build soon, but want to do a veneer panel. What size should I get? Half-inch plywood? What you may think about, Matt, is to do 1/4 inch instead thickness, and then do your veneers on top of that. Now, I know you said you had some special veneer you wanted to use. I don't quite remember what the species was, but I know we swapped some emails on it. So it wasn't something that you could just cut your own veneers from, if I remember correctly. So with a 1/2 inch and you're doing 3/4 of an inch, you got to add some space. I don't know, you may want to think about doing a 1/4 inch, or if you can get 3/8 inch plywood instead, and then put your veneer on top of that. Yeah, walnut burl, that's right. Now, are you going to try to do a regular glue veneer, or are you going to do a hammer veneer? I've never done a hammer veneer myself, but that's when I read about doing veneer work on burl, that pops in my head, as well as a video from Fine Woodworking. I think Steve Latta did some federal piece, and he did a walnut burl on the front as well, and he hammer veneered that. So you may want to think about that. Hammer veneer is hide glue, and you get that really hot, you put the burl down, and it's basically a big piece of metal with a pointed tip with a handle on it, and you just kind of push it up and down, and it forces that down as the proteins from the hide glue, which is an animal glue, keep everything stuck nicely. And it's a technique that's older than this country. It's hundreds, thousands of years old. So well, the thing with the burl, Matt, and doing the bag that I use, is that the burl is going to be very porous, so the glue is going to come up through the burl possibly. And the burl is it's not a strong piece of material. So I would look into the hammer veneering first. Just do some research. It's my only 2 cents on that, and see if you like that versus the bag. I think there's going to be actually less stress in doing the hammer veneer. Hi Richie, thanks for the question. And yes, I did do a vacuum press here, a manual one. Let me see if I can grab that. Where did it go? I know I have that box here somewhere. I did a shop update talking about it, and long story short is that I bought a kit from a company that makes skateboard kits for not veneer presses, but vacuum presses. And the kit, it worked actually, but when I came back the next morning, the seal had released itself. So the price of the kit was a good price. I think if I'm going to do it again in the future, what I would do is instead of using their tape to keep the plastic at the back of the bag, it's a 20 millimeter or 20 mil plastic, instead of using their tape, instead I would have to create some type of mechanical wooden connection. So either probably one piece of wood that was rounded like this, another that would go in and clamp that down, and then use the mechanical pump to remove the air, so that you wouldn't worry about waking up the next morning and seeing that it had been released. Now I checked it over about 3 hours after I'd done it multiple times, and it was still sealed. And so I went to bed, and then the next morning it was not sealed anymore. The wood probably finished its being adhered before it popped, but I did use that piece to do the back slats for the sides. So that glue up is here in the rocking chair. Yes, exactly. So Joe asked, is the chair pretty much complete besides the glue up? Yes and no. The construction's complete for the most part, right, Joe? Everything looks like it should look for the most part from the legs up when you're going to actually finish this part. So that construction portion's done. This portion's not been glued together. The arms haven't been glued down. But then those pictures I showed you for the rocker, there's still a lot of work left on the rocker and the carving. But yeah, for the most part, all the heavy-duty construction has been finished. Yes. Yeah, roar kit. Exactly. I can't remember where I put that in the shop. Anyways. I see it, Paul. We gotta connect. So I'll send you an iMessage tomorrow. Thanks for coming. So basically, let me get the camera and pick it up again, and let me show you guys, because I don't know if we really got a good close-up of it before, but the ebony and silver inlay as well. Actually, let's do this. We're going native. So hopefully you guys can see. So there's the ebony bars with the sterling silver inlaid into them. I think that came out pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Really happy with that. And now if you can see here, this is the underside of where the panels meets the arms. And that's a really nice fitting joint right there. Really nice fitting. Same thing here on the inside panel as well. You can see that there's no airspace there whatsoever. So that came out really well. I was really happy with that. But these ebony bars, I think they just look fantastic with the sterling silver inside of them. But when you do that, you've got to make sure that whatever you decide to use for your drill bits are the correct size. So sometimes you go to the store and you buy a drill bit, and the drill bit, it may say that it's 1/8 of an inch. It's 0.128 inches, or 128, 1.125, whatever it is. You got to come back and take a dial caliper to that and check it. Because if it's not the right size, you should not be using the bit because you're going to make a hole that's just too big. When I edited that part of the video, I did talk about how you could take some epoxy that was black, tinted black, and if you're very careful and had some acetone with you or next near you so you can clean off any of the epoxy that came out, you can still do that. But got to make sure that the bit matches the size of the silver that you ordered. And I'm pretty sure the silver was the right size. Bit just has to be the right size. Yeah, I didn't hear any leak on my bag at all. I looked. I think it was the tape just gave up. So that's just their kit. I had that issue. Maybe I just got some bad tape. I don't know. But the second glue up, I used clamps instead. I just didn't want to force it again. And I did have enough wood to do a backup if I needed to make a rough piece to do the two-side slats. So I just was trying to play it safe there. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm really liking the chair. I can't wait to add it to my living room and be able to have a glass of scotch and just rocking it for hours. What's after the chair? Well, I think I said it a couple of, maybe a month at the most. I don't know when it was, but there may be a commission in between for some Nakashima style desks. I got to work out the details with the people. That'll just be bundled with the yearly for everybody. It'll just be an extra thing that everybody will get. But otherwise, I've got the dining room table and the coffee table scheduled. Coffee table will probably come before the dining room table, unless I do that commission piece for this couple. So we'll see. But either way, if you guys bought it yearly, you're going to get all those either way. Even if it goes after, I'll add that so you get the extra stuff. So don't worry about it. But yeah, that commission may come between the coffee table and the dining table. Richie, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I've been wanting to build this rocking chair for years, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see, what else? Oh, you know what? Another thing I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to take the chair, and I'll get the camera off again, if you guys don't mind going, sliding too much. Okay, I think one of the really neat things about this project, at least for me, was the house mortise and tenon joints. So, and I want to show you the result of the house mortise and tenon joints and why I had to do those, especially back here in the leg. So let me take the camera and show that to you. Okay, if you can see right here, this is curved, right? The rear leg is curved. The rail is housed into the rear leg. The joint was cut at 90. It was cut straight, just like this joint was cut over here, right? but I did not flatten any portion of the leg. I didn't want to do that. The original chair is curved like this as well, and I really wanted to keep that detail in this build. So there's house mortise and tenon there, where, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but this rail is going into the rear leg right there, and it's inset at different depths. So here at the top, it's 3/16 of an inch deep, and then down here at the bottom, it's a 1/16 of an inch deep. And that was to, as I said, get the rail into the rear leg and keep this natural curve from the rear leg in there. That was pretty cool. Alright, do you have a dream build other than this fine chair? Thanks for the question, Richie. Do I have a dream build other than this fine chair? No, I don't right now, but I will. This has been on the list for a long time, and it was really a great experience. We would go down to the Gamble house, take pictures, sit in the actual real chair. Yeah, so I'm like just reaching that point right now. So I don't know what the next enormous dream build would be, but this rocking chair has been pretty good. So it's a good question. I just don't have an answer, unfortunately, for it right now. Yeah, I don't know. I want to do the couch from the Gamble house too. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Now I've done the Blacker house chair, so I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer, but because I'm just in the middle of this one, I want to take this one in first and just enjoy it, and then I have no doubt that at some point soon after that I will go, I really want to build this thing, and I'll get prepared to work up to that as well. And when I do know what that is, I'll tell you guys. Don't worry. Yes, I'd love to have a bench mat. And you said it's in the mail. I'm looking forward to seeing it and sharing it with everybody on the shop update. So this is kind of, let me see if I can get the camera back a little bit farther, but this is pretty much the view of the side of the chair. I think it looks pretty good. And it does rock, although, there we go. That's pretty cool. Now up here on the legs, let me show you a picture from the top of the legs over here. So I spent time, obviously, before the glue up, since the legs you can see in the picture are separate or next to each other. I spent some time with a rasp, rounding over and shaping the top of the rear legs to create this round over here. So matching the original chair as well as the living room armchair that I've already done in a build as well. Let me show you a couple other pictures. Here's the picture back. That was on Instagram from when I glued up the back of the chair. And only 2 clamps, guys, for this glue up. Just 2 clamps. The front, 1 clamp for the front. Now what was cool about that, and the reason I only needed 2 clamps in the front, and I knew exactly where everything was too, was I did house mortise tenon joints. So all I had to do was line up my parts into the house mortises, and I didn't need to try to find out where they needed to be. I knew exactly where they were, and I could throw a clamp across them. And I didn't clamp the crest rail to the rear stretcher and then create any pressure in this direction because I didn't need it. The joints for the mortises, and these being the tenons, the back slats are sized so well that it's a good friction fit pull-ups is not dramatic. If you would think maybe when you look at this chair there'd be more clamps needed, but not at all. Richie asked, do you know a good place or book to learn about angle, mortise, and tenons? Yeah, there's Yang Chao. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Um, he has a couple books out that he's published in the past. He's also done articles for Fine Woodworking, and he builds some beautiful Ming Dynasty pieces of furniture, or more traditional Chinese furniture. And he has some jigs, so I couldn't use his jigs on my table saw because I have Inker fence, so I use a tenoning jig from Delta, but he has jigs that he's built, and he's got books on them on how to cut tenons on the table saw angled, and all these very complicated Asian joints as well, which are all angled. A lot of fun, like the bird's beak joints. So he's a great person to take a look at. And just any type of chair book. You know, most chairs, not just this chair, but most chairs that are, you know, smaller in the back and larger in the front, it's all angled mortise and tenon joinery. So I would look at a chair book as well on how to build chairs. And you don't have to necessarily build a chair, but the lessons that come out of building a chair could be applied to regular furniture projects or other furniture projects as well. Matt asked, is it African mahogany? It's genuine mahogany, which means it's South American and not African. So I want to do genuine mahogany here, just like I have in my other pieces as well. African mahogany would work just as well. It was just a decision by me to use genuine mahogany. It's a little more expensive, but that's just what I wanted to go with. Alright, is there anybody else got any more questions about the chair? I think the panels came out really well too. I'm really digging the grain in the panels here. In this build, unlike the living room armchair build, I did not resaw these panels from one board. They came from two separate 4/4 boards and were brought down in thickness to 1/4 of an inch. But they both had this really great cathedral pattern, and I try to get that centered as much as possible. And I think it's a really great detail having the ebony plugs right here, right where the center of this panel is too. That's why I wanted to get the cathedral pattern centered as much as possible to be right where the plugs are. Hi Guy, no problem. Glad you could join us. Jody asks, will I stay with green and green for a while? And the answer is yes, and the answer is no, because I'm definitely going to build that Nakashima style dining table. That's going to happen. I think you guys are really going to enjoy that project, and I'm hoping that's a project that's on many people's to-do list. I happen to be lucky enough, I built one already for my house. It's 11 feet, 2 inches long, about 32 inches wide, and I got butterfly keys down the center. I have extensions on both ends, so it's actually 9 feet long, and then the extensions it brings out to 11 feet 2 inches, and I think a lot of people are going to really like that project as well. I do have some other Nakashima inspired projects in my mind. I do have some wood for them as well back there, so we'll probably get some Nakashima style stuff in here as well. I want to build a tool cabinet. I want to replace my tool cabinet with a tool cabinet that I've designed. If that's interesting to you guys, let me know. It probably won't be for a good way down the road, but I'd love to do that build as well. Thanks, Guy. You should really, when this is done, go into the back, the beginning of the video too, and watch the little clip I ran, showing how I carved all these things, and you can see more of the chair that way too. But thank you. Guy asked about the kit for the vacuum bag for the laminations, and yeah, it was asked, but just real quick, I think it works. I don't know if it was user error or what, but as I said in another shop update, the back of the bag opened up. But the two, we're going to rotate. Let's hope they don't fall off the rockers. But the two side slats came out of that lamination and they were fine. So I don't know when in the process that the bag opened up, but they were fine. I ended up doing clamps for the center. I am wanting to try it again, but instead of using their tape to keep the bag together, I'm going to create two wooden pieces that have matching curves to keep the bag closed instead. Richie says it just needs a drink holder in it now. Well, maybe we could attach one somehow with leather or something so it doesn't scratch or dent or mar the wood any. But yeah, that'd be kind of fun. You know, I like doing the green and green stuff. You know, Matt said green master. I don't know about that, but I like doing the green and green stuff because it really pushes me to concentrate and pay attention to all these details. And part of woodworking, so much of it is the details. All these angles and the house mortise and tenon joints, to me, that's exciting. And so that's really why I like the green and green stuff. I like how it looks too, don't get me wrong, but as far as techniques are concerned, I really like all of this detailed stuff. It really makes me have to stretch to reach to do whatever that may be. Alright, well, we've been here about an hour, and I think it was a good update. If you guys don't mind, if you have a couple more questions, fire them away. Put them on the chat, and I'll answer them. Know, guys, how you found out about the online shop update. Or the live shop update? Did you see on Instagram, on YouTube, from the website, Facebook? If you don't mind me telling me, so I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get this out every month so that everybody who wants to can participate. And hopefully, you know, knock on wood, by next month when we do this again, this will be done. And even if I get this finished before the live update, the chair will be on the live update for sure, so that everybody can see it when it's finished. If it's not, it'll be in the next, but it will be part of the next live update too, because I think seeing it on the screen, me editing, is one thing, but if you wanted me to, you know, I don't know, seeing it live, I think is just so cool. Thank you, the internet, right? Yeah, guide it. Definitely, the details make it fun, and the joinery as well. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, the carvings down here. It's a lot of fun. Oh, I did forget to say that now that I've glued this up, I did not. You know, some of you may know I like using planes, so all these surfaces have been planed, and then I came and rounded over these edges before I cut the house mortises. I did not sand the rails or the surface that was planed versus sanded. It'll all be sanded. Guy asked, where do you get your J Mahogany locally? Yes, I got the J Mahogany locally from a company out here called Valencia Lumber. And they carry genuine there, as well as Canal Hardwoods, which is 10 minutes from me. But they don't have the big pieces that I like to buy. Smaller widths. And still 8-foot lengths, but only 6-inch, maybe 8-inch, the most width at Valencia I can get, which, if you see the living room armchair project, 16, 18-inch wide boards. So I really want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. This is a lot of fun, and I hope you guys have a great week in the shop. I really had a great week in the shop. I'm really looking forward to this next week in the shop. So if you have any more questions about the chair, feel free to get me on all my social media stuff. You can go to my website, mmwoodstudio.com, and contact me from some form there, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, email form, whatever. Be happy to answer those as well. And I'll see you guys in 1 week.